Welcome to week 3, where we are going to be talking about coastal processes. So we're still in that marine geology category of oceanography, but we are going to move on to what's happening on the coasts now. Because last week we talked about sediments and rocks. Now we're going to move on to what's happening to those sediments and rocks on the coastline. So we're going to split this week up into 3 videos. The first one we'll talk about the types of coastlines and how do they change. Next video we'll look at the actual types of landforms we see associated with each type of coastline. And then we'll discuss some of the hazards that are present and how they might be fixed or mitigated. So the different types of coastlines that we see, if you remember back from week 1, we talked about active versus passive coastlines. So active coastline, we have some kind of tectonic boundary present, so we have active tectonics. Passive, we don't have any type of plate boundary associated with the edge of that continent, so stable or little to no change. In active coastlines, we see emergent and submergent, so this is directly related to plate tectonics. We see varying topography, rocky, sandy estuaries. In emergent coastlines, the continent appears as though it is rising out of the ocean or emerging. In submergent, the continent appears as though it's sinking into the ocean or submerging. So some of the different margins, just to kind of review this, here you see 2 different continental margins in the top picture where we have subduction, active plate tectonics occurring. So at those locations we have earthquakes, we have the crust actually shifting up and down as a result of that tectonic activity. And then a passive margin, no plate motions happening, it's just continental crust grades out into the oceanic crust without any type of tectonic boundary at the edge of that continent. So that's active versus passive. And then just kind of review a little bit about coastlines changing, this uplift gradation business. We went over that last week, so I'll kind of zip through it real quick. If we start out with our typical ground surface and we uplift, we raise the mountains due to tectonic compression, so we get higher points. Those higher points are then subject to erosion or gradation, and we erode away that mountaintop and then transport those materials out into the ocean. So give you some ideas as to what some of these different margins might look like. We're going to open Google Earth so you guys can download this at home. And if you would like to actually see the plate boundaries, you can download a KMZ file. It's a Google Earth file that shows earthquakes over the past 30 days and also the plate boundaries associated with them. I'm just going to be looking at the Google Earth images, and you'll be playing around with that file when we start talking about plate boundaries. So some of the places we're going to visit, we're going to look at a few active margin examples. So we'll go to Point Reyes, California, Soquel Cove, California. We'll look at Astoria and Willapa Bay in Oregon. Then we'll look at Cannon Beach in Oregon. And just to show you kind of what features we see at active margins, and then we'll look at some passive margin examples such as Ocean City, Maryland, Fire Island, New York, and Jensen Beach, Florida. So when you open Google Earth, you'll see a similar scenario as you see here. You've got this search section, or you can type in a different location. You can track those different places that you've been, and then there's various things you can click on and off down here to view. I would suggest starting out just with the regular standard things checked off. Now what you can do is, if you look in this top toolbar here, you see a place marks tool. You can draw things, you can look at historical imagery, you can change daylight, nighttime. You can actually click here and look at the Earth, sky, and other planets. You can trace with rulers, figuring out how far different distances are. If I can move this over so you can see the rest of the screen. One other thing you'll notice, you kind of start out with the Earth kind of centered on the United States. You can see the where the information came from, and then you can also see the elevation changing as I move around and the latitude, longitude. And then on the side of the screen here, what we can do is kind of look around. We can zoom in and out, and then we see this eye altitude, and that eye altitude directly corresponds to how zoomed in or out you are. So I'm going to go first here to that first location, Point Reyes. Point Reyes, California. And we zoom right on into that location, and you'll notice that this zoom is really far in, and if you look at that eye altitude now, we are at about 7,000 feet. So to kind of get a better picture of what's happening here, we want to zoom out a little bit, and what we see at Point Reyes is we see this rocky beach, see the waves crashing along those rocks, and then we can see a nice flat even beach over here. So these are some of the features we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for these jagged, rough edges for our continents, or nice smooth beaches. And then we'll also be looking at different bodies of water or inlets that you can see in different areas, like this estuary you can see here. So I'm going to sign off for now. We'll come back and get into some of these different details of the major landforms associated with each using Google Earth and some of the pictures that I'll be showing you.